All right, good morning, everybody. Thanks for bumping that back a few minutes. Appreciate that. Just want to start our press conference by congratulating Greg Esslinger again for his induction into the College Football Hall of Fame. I know we celebrated him during the game. That was a really special moment. As a football coach, you don't necessarily get to be that involved in that celebration during that, but what an ovation our fans gave him, and rightfully so, one of the greatest players ever to play at the University of Minnesota, and look forward to celebrating with him in December. At the induction ceremony, which we'll be at. So we're really, really excited for him and his family. That's a huge accomplishment and well-earned, well-deserved, and look forward to many Gophers down the road having that same type of ceremony and induction and celebration, because I feel like we can get a lot of those players inducted at some point. So really happy for him and his family. So with that, we'll open up for questions.
PG, when you look at what you guys were able to do tackling-wise in practice, focus on that. What did you do blocking-wise to kind of see an improvement maybe on the practice field?
Are you asking about tackling or blocking?
Well, I'm using the tackling as an example.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, let's go back to the tackling piece. It's not like we did anything different, Andy. Remember, we talked about that before, right? It was more of like doing the same things, but maybe emphasizing a little bit more. We didn't go out there and scrimmage and, beat up our guys because, again, that's, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. That's the law of diminishing returns. I mean, when you're in the middle of the season, I don't think that's the time to do that at all. That's why you have to work on those things with intentionality in training camp in the off season. You got to talk about how much you're actually going to tackle, plan that out. That can't be a reaction, But when we do the tackling convention, as I said, that usually lasts about 3 to 4 minutes. It was a long time. It was close to 25 to 30 minutes, and I think they got the point without having to put our players in harm. They just kept doing it over and over and over and over. And not one of them ever really blinked an eye. They kind of looked at me like, this is pretty long, but I think they got the point of what we were going to do. In terms of the running of the football, I kind of went back to our original line of scrimmage. If you kind of look at that, went back to what we were at the beginning. As we shuffled guys around based on who we were going to play, based on certain guys' performances, I knew we had the right 5/6 of what we wanted, but maybe they were better at different positions that maybe I missed, and gave an opportunity for some guys to move around. And then Brian Callahan and I met, and I said, let's just go back to what we're doing. Let's just go back. I feel way better at just going back to where they originally played, and let's get them better at those positions. Instead of thinking maybe it's the position, let's just get them better at that position. But it wasn't like, we did middle drill for an hour. We didn't do that either. But it was a mindset, an attitude. The game plan, I think, helped dictate that. We weren't down 14-0, weren't down 10-0. We were down 3-0. But that's manageable and definitely doable. And I knew that our guys had that mindset. We talked about we were going to have to run the football. Not that we haven't said we're going to have to run the football against other opponents either. But the game dictates kind of how that all goes too. And your ability to respond to that is what coaches, get paid to do. So I thought our guys did a really good job of that all week. Of having that mindset of what we were going to do. We talked about running the ball. That was going to be a huge key to what we had to do to win. Not just, hey, we haven't ran the ball particularly well or a lot, so we're going to go do that just because it's popular. It was good. For us to win that game, we were going to have to run the football, and our players knew that. And I thought they attacked that week really well.
PJ, when you got here, you talked a lot about building culture, and your 9th season now, you got cultural sustainability. I know you can talk a lot about this, maybe a Cliff Notes version in your answer, but what are the benefits of cultural sustainability?
Well, I think it's critical. I think it's critical, especially in 2025. I mean, we're playing a team that's been there 27 years. And a lot of the staff's been there, the longevity coordinators have been there a long time, especially on the defensive side of the ball and what they do within the same family. I think it's critical for, again, you're going to have attrition from players, right? Whether they graduate, move on to the NFL. Nobody can stay in college forever. This isn't old school, the movie. You got to move on. Randy's laughing. Randy knows exactly what movie I'm talking about. I want my coaches to move on and be head coaches. I think we've had 6, 7, 5, 6, I don't know how many coordinators we've had here total. I kind of put Western Michigan in that bracket too when I start thinking about the number. But I want those guys to move on, be coordinators, be head coaches. But I think that the head football coach and I think the strength coach, I think the general manager, I think the director of player personnel, I think as many coaches that want to stay with you and maybe don't have that dream of being a coordinator or a head football coach is important too. And I think the athletic director is really important to me too. And I think it all goes into a formula because you're going to go through some really good times together. I mean, Saturday was really, really fun, right? But we've gone through some really hard times together. And you want those people there when you're going through those really hard times because you know what you're going to do to respond. Cultures are all about connecting people. And that's how I define culture. It connects people. Now, that doesn't mean it's always good. It's always positive. It's always fun. That's not true. But when you have a group of connected people who've been together for a long time, you know how they're going to respond, which is critical in knowing how to lose and also knowing how to win. And it's critical for the development and the future of the program that you're constantly looking for, hey, this is our system. Remember, we've had the same defensive system here, but we've had multiple coordinators run it. We've had the same offense, but we've adapted it over time based on what our players can do and what our coaches want to make their own wrinkle to it. But we know what works here, what type of person works here. If all those roles are constantly changing, then you kind of have a hodgepodge, and it's really hard to connect all those people to really, one, have success, but two, when adversity hits, to really row through all of that. If we had row the boat one year and something else another year, it just seems like it's reactionary. Row the boat. Whether it's good times, hard times, calm seas, storms, row the boat. And our players have that embedded in them, and so does our coaching staff. But I think that athletic director piece of that is critical because I have a boss who allows me to be me. And then as a head football coach, that reciprocates and that goes down to our players. I want them to be who they are. We all answer to the culture, including me. I'm no bigger than the culture I create. I work for the same culture that I hold my players accountable for, the same expectations that I'd hold myself accountable for. I'm never going to ask them to do something I wouldn't do myself. And I think that's really important as you go from year to year to year to year. And maybe some faces change, but the culture, right? The way you connect people, the way you bring people into the culture, into the program, the systems and the approach you have through the good and the bad, that part doesn't change. And you're willing to adapt to everything else that comes your way. But that culture doesn't change, and I think that's really important. Everybody knows what to expect. People can say what they want about me, us, our program, our culture, row the boat. Everybody knows what to expect. And I think that's the head coach's job, is to be the cultural coach, the expectation coach, the accountability coach, and everybody who walks in the door every single day knows exactly what to expect. And I know what to expect of what my job is and how I'm held accountable to it. And I think that's what's really important about it.
With the defense and talk about same system, but new coordinator this year, what are some of the wrinkles or stamps you think Danny has put on it that have really resonated or been effective?
That's a really good question. I think that, Danny's got his own way. He's been with me 13 years. So he's seen, 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, he's seen 4 coordinators before him. That's a lot, and you see it within the same system, and then you make it your own. I see us, I think we're still really aggressive, but I thought last year we were ultra aggressive. Whether you want to talk about blitzing or whether you want to talk about assignments, whether you want to talk about, hey, we're just going to let them play fast, and if that happens, it happens. I think Danny checks every single box, and Danny is really, really disciplined. And Danny allows the guys to still play fast by checking all the boxes. It's not necessarily, hey, we're doing this coverage a little bit more, we're playing this a little bit more, because it's not about just that, because I think your personnel allows you to do those things, whatever that is. We've had a lot of guys play at corner and a lot of young guys play at corner. So it's not like, hey, we have these 2 first-round draft pick corners and we're going to play man coverage, that's all we're going to play because of that. So you have to adapt that. But I think Danny's a little, he's when I look at the whole picture, I think he's a combination between Rossi and Heatherman. And you put those together, Danny checks every box. He's very diligent. We do a lot, but he also allows our guys to play really, really fast. And sometimes when you're doing a lot, sometimes guys can't play as fast. The way he does it within his system and the way we're doing it is we're doing a lot, but our guys are allowed to play really fast because it's pretty simple to them. Looks like a lot, feels like a lot, but it is pretty simple based on the teachings that he does. So I think that's maybe the little bit of a nuance and difference. Not that anything's been better or worse, or that's not a disrespect to any other coordinator who's been here. That's just what Danny does. And Danny's so good in front of the room. I've said, I think I told you this, is that, there were years ago, he's like, what do I have to do to be the coordinator? And I meet with all of our coaches at the end of the year. And that's always unique because as a head coach, you're telling them what they have to get better at. What do you want them to get better at? You're listening to them tell you their dreams, right? And I think that's really fun. Sometimes it can be very uncomfortable, but those are the uncomfortable conversations, right? But I was like, Danny, you got to be better in front of the room. I mean, the whole room. And we do this thing on Thursday where I have staff member do a team meeting. And it's our coaches series, I call it. And it could be anybody. It could be a quality control coach, it could be a student coach, it could be a coordinator. I pick somebody every single week. And on Thursday, they get a chance to be the head football coach and run the team meeting in front of the whole team. It's awesome. I mean, it is awesome. Because by then the players are tired of hearing from me on our team meetings. But it's so cool to hear from our guys. And Danny would do that all the time. And every time he'd get better and better and better. I don't know if I've had a better person as an assistant, better in front of the room than him. And at one point, that wasn't his strength. So when you talk about Danny Collins, he gets a lot of credit and praise, rightfully so, for the journey of 13 years, sleeping in the janitor's closet. Like, that's all real and true. You go up there right now, he's got an air mattress. Like, that doesn't make you a good coach. But the work ethic allows you to have the best chance to maximize yourself as a really good coach. And that's what I love about Danny. I think coaches get infatuated by talking about hours we work or sleeping in the office. And I mean, I used to do the same thing, and Heather will never let me sleep in the office, ever. Nor would I want to do that ever again. That's not a macho thing to me. But he has that ready to go because that's his way of giving himself the best chance, especially in short weeks. And I have a ton of respect for Danny and what he's been able to do. And listen, we're only going to continue to get better. We're going to change. We're going to fail. We're going to grow. There's going to be good things. There's going to be hard things. But Danny's gotten so much better at so many things, and I'm really proud of him.
What challenges does Mark Growski present to your team?
Where do you want to start? He runs the ball like a running back, throws it like a quarterback. He's really, really intelligent. He's different than Raiola in a lot of different areas. I mean, he is like a running back playing quarterback. So if you could take Darius and Drake and put them together, that would be him, And I think that's kind of the best way to describe him. He's a winner. All he's done is win. And I think that should never be lost on anybody. When you have a winner at quarterback, all they do is win. And I have a lot of respect for Coach Ferentz and what he's been able to do. Dave, you talked about your question of cultural sustainability. I mean, I'd probably ask him instead of me. I mean, he's been doing it way longer than me at a way higher level. And it's probably a good question for him in his postgame because it's very impressive. And to watch their quarterback come in there and they're scoring a lot of points on offense, and he's a winner. And you can tell everything he does is really detailed, really fundamentally sound, and he's gritty, he's tough, and he understands situational football. He's a really good football player and knows the game within the game, and that's a scary combination.
You've been to Kinnick a few times now. What makes it such a difficult place for opposing teams?
It's incredibly loud. It's hostile. It's got great tradition. Their fans, they really care about Hawkeye football. It's a unique place to play, that's for sure. And so, somebody asked me this a long time ago. And listen, I have no problem. I'm not one of those head coaches that doesn't give anybody credit. Somebody asked me a long time ago, what's the hardest place to play? You got to take where you're at out of it. Right? So where's the hardest place to play? And I've always told them Kinnick. And this goes way back, even before Western Michigan. When I was a player at Northern Illinois, I happened to play against Iowa all the time. But I remember a game when I was at Ohio State as a GA. We were number one in the country and went into Kinnick at night. And that was one of the most challenging environments that I watched. A national championship game team who finished, was number one all year and finished 2, go into that stadium. And that was the one, I thought, game on the road we struggled with. And the crowd, the atmosphere, and then you throw the football team of Iowa in there, who never beats themselves, who's really disciplined, loves playing the game. It seems like they just plug and replace. I mean, same body type, same person, same effort, same house, same system, and they win.
EJ, with the Iowa rivalry as intense as it is, playing down there,
Yeah.
the crowd, they've got some choice things, I'm sure, to say to the Gopher players and the sidelines, and it's all emotional and all that.
It's all right there on top of you. It's all really tight there on the
Yeah,
sideline.
yeah, just stand
That's what makes
back.
college football great, though.
Yeah, absolutely. So my question is, does this make the message even more in practice this week and even on Saturdays as you get ready to go out there? Do your job. Is that something very much in mind so people keep their emotions more in check and do their job?
Well, football is a game of emotions, and we want our players to play with incredible emotion. We just never want you to cross the line to emotional. Emotional is when you're letting the outside circumstance dictate your behavior, and we don't want that. We know what type of game it's going to be. We know what we have to do. We can only control what we can control. My job is to make sure we create the most hostile environment in practice all week that they've ever seen and heard. So we have a lot of things piped in to the indoor that they might hear over and over and over and over and over. We let our whole creative department come up with all types of things of what might be said, what could be said, and they hear it all week, as well as crowd noise, as well as music, as well as all the things that they have in that stadium. You'll never be able to truly simulate it or replicate it identical, but you can simulate it as best as possible, and we're going to do everything we can to create an environment all week that can give us the best chance to have success.
Does that replication even include some personal comments?
Oh, 100% it does.
Okay, so you're a bozo, number 7.
You're a bozo. That's maybe we'll actually, Garrett, put that in there. Quote, "You're a bozo." That's Dave's comment. Dave, if that's the worst thing we ever heard there, I'd take it.
Well,
I don't think kids use bozo anymore. I don't even know if they know who Bozo the Clown is. I grew up on bozo buckets. I used to think, man, if I could just get on that show, man, I'd get all the way to 6. I had my own bozo buckets, those red ones with the clown on them. I've lost everybody now. Now I've lost everybody for the week. Here we are. This is what midseason does to you, everyone. Talking bozo buckets. I'm a Chicago kid. Watch bozo buckets.
I didn't want to offend Ryan.
Ryan has no idea who Bozo the Clown is. Not a shot. But I promise you, Dave, you've been here a long time. I have a lot of respect for you. You've been doing your job for a long time. We will put that in that'll be the first quote we put in there.
PJ, what did you think of Carter Menzies' performance on Friday?
I think Carter's a great example of the developmental program. Carter Menz, he came to us and he's a Dakota kid, which I kind of consider at times in state, when you're kind of looking at where we're recruiting. And again, he was long, twitchy, great athlete. But again, you look at his size, you're like, all right, it's going to take some years to get him to where he needs to be. He has completely bought in to the nutrition, the diet, the weight room. It takes players a year or two to get to where they need to be. This is a huge year for him, a huge year. And what I told our team the other day is because they were both players of the game. We have a bunch of players of the game. They both were, Jackson Howard and him. And I kind of said, once our team is very selfless to begin with. And I said, the more selfless we can be, the better we're going to be. There was a time where Boye Mafe was the guy. And then, Thomas Rush came on and we started, hey, Boye, we got to back your reps down and give Thomas more, and it's going to help you both. One of the best pictures I have in my office is at Colorado, and it's Boye and Thomas both jumping on each other, celebrating a sack. I said, this is what we got to create with Jackson and Carter. And they're all in. And I've watched Carter just continue to get better and better and better. And over the last few games, you just seen this meteoric rise from him. And you're like, he's got to play. And I think he took advantage of his opportunities. And he is just scratching the surface. This is nowhere near how good he can be. But I think it's the first right step and the first next step in his development.
Do 1 or 2 more for Coach?
PJ, I got a question from Daniel House. He was wondering about.
Oh, boy.
I'm not going to be able to do it justice, but generally speaking, he was curious about the I formation looks you guys had and how that came about and how you felt like it affected the run game.
Yeah, I mean, we've had that in our system. We worked on it in the spring. It's part of what we do and how we do it. I think it gave us an advantage of different angles. I mean, when you look at Nebraska and you play Nebraska, I mean, you all saw them, and they're really impressive looking defense. They're very, very talented. They're twitchy. They're long. They're strong. They're deep. But we felt like our angles were going to be really critical, and the I formation allowed us to be able to create some of that. A lot of the lead plays, short motions, gave us some angles, got some backers to move the way we wanted them to move. And I think, Frank Bierman is one of the most selfless players on this team. And, I'm playing fullback here, which, we've evolved into having a fullback here and there. But he's also a tight end. He made some nice catches for us. But having him and his mindset and his toughness allow us to set that type of tone that we wanted to set. And not to say we haven't had that type of I formation in some of the game plans, but again, we got out of some things pretty quick because of some scores. But this was a little bit more of our flow, and I thought we got into that rhythm early. But I thought it created some really good advantages with us, not just the numbers wise, but the angles and that mindset that we wanted to create. There was a lot of jabs going on. I'm a big UFC fan. A lot of jabs, jabs here, jabs there. A lot of people wanted the uppercut. Not just keep jabbing, keep kicking them in the shin. The shin kicks as you watch UFC. I mean, you can hear those, and how does that person? And then you see a little welt growing on the shin, and it gets all red, and then there's some blood coming off the shin. And they're not pretty, and they're not that exciting, but you do that in the first half, and we knew that was going to be that type of game. And the I formation helped us with a little bit of creating that. And then you can go for some uppercuts later on, and then that was the kind of game it was going to be. It's not how every game will go. Every game's its own entity. And we're creating the game plan for this week, which could be completely different. This is a really good football team that we're playing this week that we have a ton of respect for.
Final one for Coach, or is everyone all set? All right, thank you guys.
Thanks, everybody, for being here. Row the boat, Sky Mile, go Gophers. Thank you.